What if everything you was taught about your family was a lie? What if they purposely used the terms black and the terms African American to erase your Indian identity? Well, the information I'm about to present proves all of that. North Carolinians labeled as free people of color, those assumed to be free people of African descent, free people of Native ancestry, whom the state did not recognize as politically autonomous, free persons with heritage in the East Indies, and a variety of individuals with mixed ancestry. They sometimes use free Negro, free Mulatto, free Musty, and free Black interchangeably with free persons of color. But free persons of color was the most frequently used term. In addition, this seems to be the term used widely accepted by those who fell into the category. 20th and 21st century historians have used Negro, Black, and African American instead of or in conjunction with person of color. Yet to embrace their usage is to accept that racial categories are fixed to specific groups of people with specific collective histories. These scholars' usage of categories suggests the terminology can shift, but the people those categories describes are essential historical groups. The evolution of racial categories, however, is more complex. All of these terms, especially African American, are loaded with 20th and 21st century connotations of African ancestry, which do not necessarily apply to the subjects of this study or their descendants. As this book demonstrates, not all individuals categorized as free people of color had African ancestry, and they are not collectively the ancestors of people described today as Black or African Americans. Large numbers of people who today are the descendants of free people of color self-categorized or self-classified by others as white and Indian. The story of free people of color may be one of the best examples of racial categories being made and remade in American history. Additionally, some other descendants of free people of color have explained to me that their ancestors understood Black to be a derogatory term and not one they embrace as a self-descriptor. These assertions are confirmed by the contrasting use of terminology between the 19th century radical pro-slavery propagandists who frequently use the term Black in their writings and other North Carolinians who commonly use of color. Did you understand what was just said? They said Native Americans were called people of color, and we're not talking about the Native Americans of today because they don't have no documentation to prove that their ancestors were called color, no birth certificate, no nothing. We know those people were Black people, but that's besides the point. In this passage, they just said Black people didn't want to be called Black because it was discriminatory, right? So they called themselves colored. They were also called Indians too. So how did Black people lose their Indian identity? By being called colored. It was only two categories, white and colored. That's it. Let's continue though. I have found evidence that the category free people of color included individuals without African ancestry. Most notably, Native peoples. Pay attention. Scholars of Native American history have uncovered numerous examples of Native people being categorized as Black, colored, or mulatto. Ruth Wallace, Hardin, and Ellen Wilcox Sakatu argued that such labeling of Native people was a form of documentary genocide. I agree that such labels obscured ancestral distinctions. I also think and show, however, that racial categories have never truly acted as accurate indicators of ancestry. Whites in the 19th century in North Carolina were quite aware that they had branded Native peoples as colored, and even after such labeling retained memory, or at least a belief, that certain free people of color were Native peoples. With this understanding, I urge scholars to reimagine the genesis of racial categorization for Native peoples. In the United States, as in other parts of the Americas, all Native people did not fall into Indian category. Some Native people live under the designation colored and experience the legal limitations associated with such designation. So you see the truth. how natives were called black, mulatto, and colored. The modern Native Americans today were not called as such. Come on now, you know better. If you want part 2, let me know. Let me get 300 likes on this video and I'll release part 2. Until then, I'll see you soon.